All right, Ramosai, good morning. Good morning. Let us begin by thanking Baruch Hashem, all of our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the year of Tafshin Pei, the Tilsa Mishbach. You know, I realize that sometimes I neglect to thank our annual Talmud Torah sponsors. They don't just sponsor Daf Yomi, they sponsor all of the shiurim, but somehow I only end up mentioning it over the course of Daf Yomi. But to thank our annual Talmud Torah sponsors, the Tilsa Mishpacha, for dedicating all the Shiur and Drashos in the Schus of Besaros Tavos for Am Yisrael. We hope that Emir Hashem, this is going to be a Shabbos with additional hostages returned. Emir Hashem, a Shabbos in which we see additional families reunited. Halavai, we should be Zocha Emir Hashem. So we thank Tilsa Mishpacha and our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Teves, Haba Alinu Latova, the Kelman family in memory of Amit ben David Levi, Zichron Lebracha, brother of Itai Levi, who was killed in Gaza on the first night of Hanukkah. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, his neshama will have an aliyah and the family einacham. And also with that, let us begin. We have a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem. A lot to accomplish. Today's daf is Emir Hashem daf Lamed Ches 38, and we are picking up on Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. We left off Hava Yodim, right? Yeah, excellent. So in the wide lines on the bottom, 3 lines in. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyeh b'dvaro. Okay, so let's begin. It says the Gemara as follows. So, Hava Yodim, Amar Rav Yehuda, Breid Rav Chia, Malamid, Sha'asei Kain Behevel, Oz A'achiv, Chaburos, Psios, Shelo Haya Yodea Mehechan Neshama Yotza. So an incredibly tragic turn over here. That when Cain killed Hevel, remember again, there was never an act of bloodshed beforehand. So remember when Cain killed Hevel, so Cain had no idea how to kill Hevel, so he went ahead and he hit him, he struck him multiple times. Until he got to his neck. And when he got to his neck, then he was able to strike him and kill him. From the day that the earth opened up and swallowed up the blood of Hevel, Shuvlo Pascha. The earth never opened its mouth again. Shne'emar, Miknafa Aretz Zemiro Shamanu Tzvi Latzadik. Miknafa Aretz, Volome Pia Aretz. Esvei Esi Chizkiah, Achiv Chizkiah raised the cash. Is that true? That the earth never opened its mouth again after it swallowed up the blood of Hevel? The pasuk says, Vatiftach Haaretz Es Piha. The pasuk says that the earth opened up its mouth. This is by Korach, and it opened up its mouth to swallow up Korach and his followers. Amrlei l'ra pascha l'tova lo pascha. The earth opened up its mouth for negative things, for terrible things, for punitive things, but never went ahead and opened its mouth for something positive again. Galus has the ability to atone for half of one's sins. By Cain originally it says, after he killed Hevel, so what's the punishment? I'm going to be na v'nad, I'm going to be a wanderer. And then again, if you notice, again it says that Cain lived in Eretz Nod, which is the Gemara's understanding over here that it took away half of the punishment. He was supposed to be na v'nad, but it turns out that he's only going to be in Eretz Nod. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Galus mechaper shlosha dvarim. Galus, exile, has the ability to atone for 3 things. The Gemara says, Shnei Emar, Ko Amar Hashem, Hayoshev Be'ir Hazos Yomos B'cherev B'ra'av U'B'dever. Vayotzi V'nafa Al Akastim, Hatzar Ma'alechem Yichya, V'haiselo L'nafsho Shlal. So the idea here is the Gemara darshins that Galus has the ability to even be mechaper for cherev, for war, for ra'av, for famine, and for dever, for pestilence. Rabbi Yochanan says, Galus mechaperes ala kol. Galus is mechaper on everything. Galus is mechaper on everything. In other words, we'll say the upheaval of Galus is so acute. right? And the apiva is so profound that it is literally mechaper on everything. Shene Emar, Ka Amar Hashem, Kisva Sa'ish Hazeh Ariri, Gever lo yitzlach biyamav, ki lo yitzlach mizara ish Yoshe lakise David, umoshel od biyehuda, ubasar the galak siv, ubnei Yechanya, aser shaltiel beno, aser. Okay, fine. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So the Gemara darshans over here, based on these psukim by Yechanya, that you see over here, that halacha l'maisa galus is mechaper on everything. Now, I just point out how profound and how important this is for us. You know, there's something positive in everything we experience in life. And even in galus, which is so sad and so overwhelming and so profound, yet we find the chama in the fact that galus is mechaper. That here in this 2,000-year diaspora, the quote-unquote good news is that very galus which has the ability to atone for all of our averos, both national as well as individual. Incredible. So the Gemara says, why does it talk about the son of Yechanya being Asir? Why is his name Asir? She'ibarto imo bebeis ha'asurin. His mother became pregnant with him while she was incarcerated. So, in other words, Asir's parents, Yechanya and his wife, were incarcerated together. His mother became pregnant during incarceration. So the Gemara says Shaltiel. Why is his name Shaltiel? Sheshaslo el shelo kederech hanishtalin. Because his mother became pregnant with him in a way, in an unnatural way. What does it mean, unnatural way? So the Gemara says Gemiri, because we have a tradition, She'ein ha'isha misaberes me'umad, that a woman cannot become pregnant from an act of relations which occurs standing up. Top of Lamed Ches 38a, V'hinis Abra me'umad, and yet again, Shaltiel's mother became pregnant when she was standing up. So actually, Rashi points out over here that Shaltiel's mother, who was Yechanya's wife, Yechanya and his wife were incarcerated together in like a narrow dungeon. So they were there together, so they had relations. So she became pregnant in this particular fashion, which the Gemara understands was a little bit miraculous. So the Gemara says this: Shaltiel. Why was he called Shaltiel? Shenishal al olaso, because ultimately again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu released him from his oath. Now, not from his oath, but ultimately again, there was HaKadosh Baruch Hu went ahead and made a promise that Yechanya was not going to have a child. But again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu released him from that vow, and he had a child. All right, El Zerubbabel. Why is he called Zerubbabel? Shenizra beBavel, because his mother became pregnant with him in Bavel. Umashmo. What is the actual name of Zerubbabel? So the Gemara says Nechemia ben Chachal Yishmo, the Navi Nechemia. Yehuda v'Chizkiah b'nei Rabbi Chia havu. So this is a great story. Yehuda and Chizkiah were the sons of Rabbi Chia. So the Gemara says, Yossi b'Suda kamei Rabbi. So they sat at a Suda. They were having, this is a beautiful, beautiful Gemara. They were sitting at a Suda in front of Rabbi. Velo havu ka'amri, velo midi. And they didn't say anything. In other words, we'll say, they weren't sharing any divrei Torah at the table. Right? So again, this is a good Musar. When you're a guest at someone's table, be prepared with a Dvar Torah. So what happens? Incredible. So Yehuda and Chizkiah, the sons of Rabbi Chia, come to the Suda, come to the table of Rabbi, and no Divrei Torah. So the Gemara says, Amar lahu agabru chamra adardiki kihechi delemru milsa. So again, kevan deipsum. So I'm sorry, delemru milsa. So essentially, Rabbi says, what's the problem? Did you drink too much? You drank too much. You don't have the ability to say a Dvar Torah. Kevan. So when they did indeed drink a little bit too much, paschu va'amru, they said a Dvar Torah. Now this one was a doozy. Listen to the Dvar Torah. They said, Ein ben David ba ad sheyichlu shnei bate avos mi Yisrael. Right, Mashiach won't come until literally again 2 families cease to exist within Klal Yisrael. Who are these 2 families? Ve'eluhein Rosh Hagala, the Reish Kalusa family, Sheba Bavel, the Nasi Sheba Eretz Yisrael, and the Nasi's family in Eretz Yisrael. Mashiach will only come once these 2 families cease to exist. Shena Emar, V'haya l'mikdash, u'la'even nagaf u'litzor michshal l'shnei bate Yisrael. So that was the Vart. That was the Vart. There's only one problem. Rabbi was the Nasi, right? Rabbi was the Nasi, from the family of the Nasi. So Rabbi says, what are you doing? You're putting thorns in my eyes? putting thorns in my eyes. After all, again, you're essentially telling me that the only way Mashiach comes is if my family goes ahead and ceases to exist. I will say, now by the way, as an aside, what exactly does this mean that Mashiach only comes when these families cease to exist? So the idea of it, the Pashat Pshat is that understand that these two families, meaning the families of the Nasi and the families of the Reish Galusa, represent Jewish leadership, right? At the end of the day, so remember, it's important to understand, Mashiach comes, he's going to replace those two families. Mashiach is going to become the leader, and again, going to replace previously established leadership constructs. So that's what it means. It doesn't have to mean that those families are going to cease to exist. What it means is their authority is going to be usurped by the Mashiach. There's going to be a recalibration of power or of authority within Klal Yisrael. So Rabbi was very distressed by the Vart. By the way, everyone's had this experience where you've asked someone to give a Dvar Torah at your table, and then afterwards, like, oh, that was a very bad idea, right? So now again, this was one of those company faux pas, right? Where you ask the wrong person to share a Vart. Right? So then what happens? So Rabbi's obviously very distressed. I'm Rabbi Chia, al yer beinecha. So Rabbi Chia, the father of these boys, says to Rabbi, don't get upset. Don't be upset. After all, again, yayin nitan b'shivim osios, v'sod nitan b'shivim osios. Right. So again, Rashi says over here, yayin b'shivim osios. The gematria, right? The gematria of yayin is 70, right? Yud and nun, and sod nitan b'shivim osios, and the gematria of sod, which means secret, is also 70. What do we learn from here? Nichnas yayin yatsa sod. That when the wine comes in, the secrets come out. The wine come in. So in other words, I will say. So what? I understand. So what does this mean? What does this mean? So ultimately, again on a pashat level, what Rabbi Chia is saying is, he'll say, you know how like there are some people who say like they say certain things and they say like, I just have to say what's on my mind, right? So you ever hear a conversation like that? Someone says, I just have to say what's on my mind. What's the response when someone says, I just have to say what's on my mind? What's the response? No, you don't. No, you actually don't have to say what's on your mind. You do not need to share that, because there are certain things that are on your mind that should absolutely stay in and on your mind and should not be shared with other people. That's it. Not everything needs to be said. Not everything needs to be shared. So the idea over here is, what the sons of Rabbi Chia were saying was correct. It was absolutely unequivocally correct, but it shouldn't have been said. It shouldn't have been said. It wasn't a need. It was only going to create a certain sense of sadness, a certain sense of despair, and therefore was fundamentally and totally unnecessary to be said. But yet again, what ends up happening? Nichnas yayin yatsa sod. The power of yayin is we all put up barriers. So sometimes again, when wine comes in, what ends up happening? The barriers come down. When the barriers come down, certain things that are normally kept a little bit closer to the chest now come flowing out. So I want to tell you something beautiful. So when Rabbi Chia's sons had a little too much to drink, what came out? Mashiach. And it was like the Gemara says, you could tell a lot about a person in three ways. Koso, kiso, kaso. What does a person do when they drink? How does a person spend their money? And does a person get angry? And how do they behave when they get angry? When you look at those three things, you could tell a lot about a person. So there's something really beautiful over here that when these boys, these young men, drank a little too much, what comes out? A discussion about Mashiach. Granted, may have been a little bit of the wrong discussion about Mashiach, considering it spoke about the cessation of certain mishpachos, but again, that's what came out when you dug deep, right? When a little bit of wine came in, the desire and the want for Mashiach, for Geula, came out. Again, tell a lot about a person when they drink a little bit. What comes out? All types of silliness and foolishness, or maybe sometimes it's divrei Torah, it's singing, it's devekas, it's I love everyone, whatever it is. But the inner me really comes out with a little bit of yayin, or a lot of yayin. Amrav Chista. Darash Mari Bar Mar. What's the meaning of the pasuk? Here goes the pasuk from Daniel. Vayishkot Hashem al hara vayivi'ei aleinu ki tzadik Hashem Elokeinu. So ultimately, again, so literally translated, Hashem hastened the evil. He brought it upon us because Hashem is a tzaddik. I says the Gemara, Mishum the tzaddik Hashem vayishkot Hashem al hara vayivi'ei aleinu. Because Hashem is a tzaddik, He hastened the evil and brought it upon us. What does that mean? So Gemara says, tzedakah asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu im Yisrael shehiktim galus tzidkiyahu. So I'll say this is incredible. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a chesed with us in that He hastened the galus of Tzidkiyo. Remember again, Abosai, so Yechanya and Tzidkiyo, just historically, you understand, the beginning of Megillah Esther, when the Megillah introduces us to Mordechai, what does it say? Where did Mordechai come? Right? So again, so Yechanya again is first Beis HaMikdash and the first Beis HaMikdash together with Tzidkiyo. That's why again, remember, Megillah Esther happens in between the first and the second Beis HaMikdash. So the chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did, the chesed that He did is that He hastened the exile of Tzidkiyo. So again, we'll see why that's a chesed in just a moment. Va'od galus Yechanya kayemes. Because again, at that point when Tzidkiyo was exiled, Yechanya was still alive in Bavel. So the Gemara says, "Va'od galus yichayim kvar dichsiv maybe galus yichayim." We'll say first white line. Hacharash v'hamasker alaf charash ke'esom zar elaf. So what happens? Because the pasuk talks about again the craftsmen and the gatekeepers. Charash. Why does it call him a charash? So this is talking about Yechanya. Keva sheposchen hakol nasa kecharashin. Yechanya was such a big Talmid Chacham that whenever he opened his mouth, everyone else almost like became mute. Masker, what does he know? Was a gatekeeper. Kevan shesogrin bahalacha shuv in poschen. Once they determined a particular matter in halacha, the matter was closed. There was nothing else to talk about. The kama hayu, how much were there? Elef ula amar sheikdim shtei shanim lenoshantem. Ula says no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu exiled Tzidkiyo 2 years before the numerical value of noshantem. The pasuk talks about the idea. The pasuk the Gemara is talking about over here is kisolid banim ubnei banim v'noshantem baaretz. You will have children and grandchildren v'noshantem, and they will go astray. So here the pasuk is talking about when Klal Yisrael does not do the right thing. V'ishchasem v'asisem pesel tmunas kol v'asisem rabbeinu Hashem elokech alach yisod. Torah then talks about galus. So the problem is we'll say, so then again this gets into like tochacha like items. So the idea is, here's what's fascinating, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought about the punishment of Klal Yisrael a little bit earlier than it was supposed to happen. Because had he waited longer, the repercussion would have had to have been more severe. So he expedited the exile, or I should say hastened the exile by a little bit in order to mitigate the effects of the exile. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov Shmamina Meheira Demari Alma Tamni Mea V'Chamisha V'Tartin Shnin. What do you see from here? That the definition of quick, the definition, right, of haste with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is 852 years. That's the numerical value of Noshantem. So I'll say this is really a tremendous Musar Haskell, that sometimes the chesed of the Ribono Shel Olam manifests itself in sometimes bringing about the punishment a little bit earlier than it had to occur, right? So sometimes again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, see the godless of the Ribono Shel Olam is that He's able to see everything that is going to occur, right? He's Hayehovah V'yeh. So when He sees if I allow things to continue on, they're going to go down an irreversible path. Whereas if I extract punishment now, then there's a chance of rehabilitation. There's a chance ultimately again of tshuva. And I will say, see, as human beings, because we're so limited, all we see is the punishment, right? All we see is the negativity, is the hurt, is the pain. We don't get to see the entire picture of it. But yet, halacha l'maisa, the Ribono Shel Olam does. Really an incredible Musar Haskell in terms of how we just have to view our circumstances and our situations. Incredible. So here we go. Back to Adam Arishon. Adam Yechid Yinivra. Adam Arishon was created as a singular being. Why not create an Adam and Chava from the outset? So the Gemara says, in order that the heretics should not say that there are many different gods in the heavens. In other words, that, remember, had multiple human beings been created at the same time, what could people have said? People might have said like this, this God is creating his guy, and this God is creating his guy. So therefore, Hakadosh Baruch Hu creates one man, one human being. That's the first human, in order that there should be no doubt that there is only one Ribono Shel Olam. It's beautiful because tzaddikim rishaim shelo yuat tzaddikim omrim anu b'nei tzaddik or rishaim omrim anu b'nei rasha. Why? We'll say why one person. So the tzaddikim shouldn't say, right? And remember, if there are two people, so tzaddikim would say, oh, we're the descendants of the tzaddik, and the rishaim would say, oh, we're the descendants of the Rasha. Now, why does this matter? If you take a quick look at Rashi, this is actually really profound. Rashi says over here, Anu b'nei tzaddik, it's right across from those short lines, and last short lines of Rashi. Avinu tzaddik nivra, lefichach anu tzaddikim, ve'ein anu tzrichim l'srachek min ha'avera. Min ha'avera. Sorry. So a person would say, we're the sons of tzaddikim, so we're inherently righteous. There's no need for us to take additional precautionary measures in life because, hey, we are already the children of tzaddikim. And again, what were the children of Rasha saying? Anu b'nei Rasha, ve'ein anu zukukim b'tshuva u'litzaddik ki lo yoel. So it says incredible. So, and the children of the Rasha will say, for us, there's no point in trying to do tshuva since we are the children of a Rasha. There is no way for us to rehabilitate ourselves. I will say, do you hear this? Do you hear this? In other words, Hakadosh Baruch Hu created two human beings to start out. So one chevra would say, we're the descendants of the tzaddik, we're the descendants of the Rasha. The descendants of the tzaddik would say, we're impervious to sin, we're good to go, we're golden, right? Nothing wrong, we don't have to do anything, we're fine. And the children of the Rasha would say, we're Rishaim in our DNA. And because we're Rishaim in our DNA, there's nothing that is going to help us do tshuva. Incredible. Therefore, what does Hakadosh Baruch Hu do? Hakadosh Baruch Hu makes us all the descendants of one person. Of one person. So no one could say, I'm the descendants of the Rasha, I'm the descendants of Tzaddik. We're all the descendants of Adam HaRishon. So what was Adam HaRishon? Was he a Tzaddik? Was he a Rasha? What was he? What was he? Was a Tzaddik. He was a Tzaddik who made mistakes, like every single Tzaddik who makes mistakes. And just like, again, when a Tzaddik who makes a mistake, in that moment when I make the mistake, maybe I'm a Shtik Rasha in that moment, but Lamaisi, he rehabilitated himself afterwards. So we all trace ourselves to an original ancestor who was about tshuva, who started out at tzaddik, made a mistake, and then became about tshuva. So I'll say, so effectively, we're all bali tshuva. That's really what it comes down to. Our ancestry is that we are bali tshuva. Incredible. This isn't great. We'll say, why does Hakadosh Baruch Hu link us back to one ancestor? Because of fighting that goes on because of yichus. So what happens? Because can you imagine if there are multiple original people, right? Multiple originals, right? Multiple Adam HaRishon. So what would happen? This mishpacha would say, I trace my yichus to this one, and this one would say, I trace my yichus to this one. And what ends up happening? Uma achshav shenivra yochid miskaros. So what can you imagine? We see all the fighting that goes on about yichus, right? Who has a better yichus? Who has a more compromised yichus? Even though we all trace ourselves to the same exact ancestor, right? We all go back to the same person, and yet there's still so much machlokes about yichus. Alachas kama v'kama. It's incredible. We'll say why Hakadosh Baruch Hu trace us back to one central ancestor in order to go ahead and avoid the Gazlonin and Chamasin, the thieves. Rashi says, Shiyomru karka zeh libnei avinu harishon haisavalo libnei avichem. If there were multiple originals, so what would happen? This Chavra would say, this land originally belonged to my ancestor. And this one would say, this land originally belonged to my ancestor. So the Gemara says as follows. Uma achshav shenivra yichidi gazlan v'chomsin nivru shnam alachas kama v'kama. And we see, by the way, even though now we do have one ancestor, but yet we see the machlokes that exists regarding what belongs to what. Even though all of humanity could trace itself to one central ancestor, can you imagine the machlokes that would exist if we had multiple original ancestors? Incredible. Okay. What is the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Listen to this. Sha'adam tovea kama mapeos. So listen to this. A person could mint a number of different coins. And what happens, what's incredible is, right? A person could mint a whole bunch of coins, and amazingly enough, every single coin could come out the same. Right? Say every single penny looks the same. Right? Every quarter, every coin looks exactly the same. This is incredible. Kadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, mints every human being in the image of Adam Rishon. Right? Adam Rishon was the original human being, and every human being is minted, so to speak, in that model. Yet with that, and yet, interestingly enough, but yet, again, at the end of the day, yet even though all man is minted in the same way, none of us look alike. None of us look alike. Why? Because it's incredible. Because it's incredible. What would happen if everybody looked alike? What would happen? So therefore, again, if everybody looked alike, and so, right, Reuven saw Shimon's wife. It's like, oh, I'd like to be married to her, right? Or Reuven saw Shimon's house and said, I'd like that. Well, if Reuven looked just like Shimon, then what could happen? Reuven could assume Shimon's identity. Reuven could say, hey, it's mine. How can you disprove it, right? Don't I look like the owner? So if everybody looked like each other, we'd get into these very difficult situations. Tanya, Rameir says, there are three ways in which every person is different from the other. How? Bikol, with voice, right? It's interesting, right? Voice differs from one person to the other. Bimara, appearance. Ubidas. Now, das could mean your intellect, but really what it means is your feelings, your emotions. So b'kol b'mara mishum erva. So it makes sense that a person has to be different than his fellow with kol, with voice, and with mara, and with appearance. Why? In order not to lead to any type of immorality. Because what could happen if people looked the same, people sounded the same? It would be easy for people to engage with immorality for each other, not knowing or being able to deceive someone else, duping them into an act of immorality. Okay? Bidas, what about again with feelings or with knowledge? Listen to this. It will say, if all of us shared the same knowledge, then what? You would know where I hide my gold, right? And I don't tell anyone where I hide my gold, right? So what could happen? But if you knew my das, you would know where I hide my gold, and you'd be able to go ahead and take my intellect. I will say, there's also an incredible idea if you think about this. If you think about this, the three ways in which we differ from each other, in which we distinguish ourselves, kol could also mean in the way that we speak, the way that we talk, the way that we verbally present it really says a lot about who we are. Mara doesn't just mean about our appearance or how we look, but it also means in how we present. How does a person present themselves? How does a person present to others? And das, so I will say das is, what are my deos? Das doesn't just have to mean my secrets, doesn't just have to mean where my gold is. My das represents my goals, my dreams, my aspirations. What do I want to be in life? What do I want to do when I grow up? How do I want to, who do I want to be? So I'll say, these are the three things. You could tell a lot about a person in these three things. Kol, how does a person speak? Mara, how does a person present? I will say this is so incredibly important. You know, I was saying, we like to say that externalities don't matter. Externalities mean a lot. How you present, and this is everything, how you present, how you dress, it says a lot about how you feel about yourself, and ultimately, again, the image that's important for you to project. And again, das, what are my dreams, my goals, my aspirations? Who do I want to be? I will say, isn't the greatest challenge in life that sometimes we just get on that conveyor belt? We just get on that conveyor belt and we just keep going, right? We keep trucking, right? We just go. We start like when we're 25 and we wake up one day and we're 85. Last night by Tzav Zeros, we spoke with Chasidus Chabura, which was in the lobby. was crazy. Where's Zevi? Where's Zevi? Mamish, we had music like no one's business. It was just like absolutely overwhelmingly beautiful. We spoke about again that there comes a day when you have to take stock of your life. There comes a day when you have to go ahead and really contemplate, what you've done and how you've lived. And I both say, okay, there's no need to talk about it, right? So there comes that day, there comes that point, and I both say we go through life and we kind of get into a rhythm. I will tell you, like I mentioned this in a different context, one of the most incredible things about being in a new building, one of the most incredible things is this overwhelming feeling of hischadshus, of renewal. That I could do things differently. There's a newness. So sometimes, again, it's a little anxiety provoking when you see every single chair hitting the wall, right? Or the spillage on the this or the this. All right. I've been told I have to learn to let go. So I'm working on it. I'm sure it's going to happen after the first Shabbos, or I'm going to have no choice, right? But the truth is, honestly, I will say, where does that come from, right? I was thinking to myself yesterday, I don't know, I'm not makbid like that in my house. It's not even when I moved into another, it wasn't never makbid like that. No. But here, I literally feel like yelling at people, don't touch the walls, right? Don't touch the walls, right? Be careful. I did that actually. I actually did do it, right? And yesterday, I usually don't make enemies. Yesterday, I made enemies with the guys installing the Aron Kodesh, which is not finished. I literally was giving them instructions. And I'm pretty sure they cursed me in Spanish, right? And they essentially said, loose translation, who the heck is this guy, right? Don't tell us what to do, right? Anyone who walks around with his top buttoned clearly doesn't get his hands dirty in construction, right? So step away, go do your Jew thing, right? And leave us alone. Leave us alone. It's not finished, and they made a number of mistakes. I'm just going to point out, whatever. They're going to come back and correct it on Monday. And Hashem. I'll say, but what is it? It's the newness. It's the newness, and when you're surrounded by newness, there's a hischadshus. There's something exciting about it. And you see to yourself wow, if this could look new and beautiful and pure and pristine, I could look new and pure and pristine, right? I could bring a newness into myself as well. I don't have to be the same old personalistic building. I don't have to be the same, however old I am, structure. I could renew my own structure. I could build a new building. I could become someone new and someone different as well. My davening doesn't have to be the same. My learning doesn't have to be the same. My marriage doesn't have to be the same. My midos don't have to be the same. My interaction, everything has the ability to become new. That's the inspiration of new surroundings. If walls could become new, which are inanimate, alachas kama v'kama, I could become new. That's the das. That's the das. I will say, do I have the same das that I had 20 years ago? Or is my das new, constantly renewing at every different stage in life? All right, let's go weiter. Says the Gemara. Adam nivra me'erev Shabbos. Wow. Adam nivra me'erev Shabbos. I will say, how crazy is it to have an Erev Shabbos Gemara on Erev Shabbos? I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. Adam nivra be'erev Shabbos. Man was created on Friday, Erev Shabbos. Why? The concern was that if man was created earlier than then what would happen? People could erroneously think that man was helping HaKadosh Baruch Hu in creation. So therefore, man's created on Friday, the end of creation. So no one could tell that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a partner in my Silber. Incredible. That if man gets carried away with himself, it was incredible. If man decides to become arrogant, so what happens? Kadosh Baruch Hu can say, hey, calm down, you're not so great. A gnat, right? Gnats were created before you in the order of creation. Okay, it's pretty humbling. So Gemara says, other possibility is, why was man created on Erev Shabbos? So that he should enter into mitzvahs immediately. Now both say, which mitzvah? Shabbos, which is actually quite beautiful, that the entire intention of the Bria was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted our first mitzvah to be Shabbos Kodesh. Wow, what a beautiful Gemara to learn on Erev Shabbos. It's overwhelming. The first HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I want to create you, and again, kind of get your bearings a little bit, and then after you get your bearings, we're going right into Shabbos together. Next, other possibilities, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Adam Rishon to go right into the Suda. Now it's also Shabbos Suda, but meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Adam to find everything set, like a set table. The world was organized. Adam Rishon came into a fully finished product. He did not have to live through construction. Could be compared to a king who first built a palace, organized everything, did all of the finishes, and then after the finishes were complete, then he invited his guests. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, isn't this beautiful? The Ribono Shel Olam wanted to invite us into a finished world. He did not want us to have to live through construction. And I will say this is incredibly important, right? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu could do that. I will say, but it's incredibly important because at the end of the day, what it also says is like this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu invited us into a perfect world, into a good world, into a complete world, which means that even when it looks imperfect, unfinished, or under construction, it's important to understand that's only because we don't see the full plan. Hashem invited us to be part of something that is complete, that is perfect. And at the end of the day, sometimes when it looks imperfect, it's only because of our inability to see the perfection and to see the wholeness inside of it. Incredible. Let's go right there. So the Gemara says as follows. Shneimar chachmas ban sabesa chasam odeh shiva. Tavcha tivcha mascha yena af orcha shulchana shulchan araseh tzikra al gape merome karas. The Gemara says chachma ban sabesa. So again, the Gemara darshans the pasuk. What does it mean when it says wisdom built a home? Zumi dosa shak HaKadosh Baruch Hu shebaras kala olam kula b'chachma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the entire world with chachma, with wisdom. Chatzva amudah. He carved out its pillars. So the Gemara says, Shiva, Elu Shivas B'yamei Bereshis. For 7 days creation. Tavcha Tivcha, Mas Chayena, Av Archa Shulchana, Elu Yamim, V'naros V'chol Tzarchei Olam. Ultimately, this refers to the seas, the rivers, and all the different needs of the world. Shalchan Aroseh Tikra, Ze Adam V'chava. Agape merome keres. What does it mean again that they lived on the heights of the city? So the Gemara says, Rabba Barachana Rami Ksiv Agape Uksiv Al Kise. Which one is it? Does man sit on the heights or does man sit on the chair? Betchila Agape Ulubasof Al Kise. Originally, man dwelled in the heights of the world. And then unfortunately, after his sin, he was relegated ultimately again to a kisei. Mi pasi, yasser heina chasar lev amralo, amra HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mi pasa'o lazeh. Who enticed man to sin? Isha. Ultimately, again, it was Chava. So Amar says, Amrlo dichsev noif isha chasar lev. So we'll say it's interesting that at the end of the day, there is joint responsibility for the chait of Adam Arishon. But again, the Gemara points out that at the end of the day, it was also Chava who enticed Adam to sin. But of course, again, Adam is really held responsible for his reaction to the events, or ultimately, again, his reaction after he realized that he made a mistake. Okay, so goes on. Tanya, Rabbi Meir Omer, Adam Rishon Kala Olam Chutzbar Afro Shene Emar Galmi Ra'u Einecha Uksiv Ki Einei Hashem Mishot Dos B'Chalar. So we'll say this is an incredible Gemara. Adam Rishon, remember again, is made from dust, made from dirt. Remember again, where was the dirt collected from? So the Gemara says dirt was collected from all 4 corners of the earth. Right? Again, literally, Afrosh, Simar says, Mikala Olam Kulo, Chutz Bar Afro. So literally, again, his dirt, his dust that made him up was collected from all 4 corners, all 4 parts of the world. I will say, what's the pshat with that? What's the pshat? It's to show you that halacha l'maisa, Adam comes from everywhere, which tells you that wherever Adam Harishon is, wherever he is, he can be successful. See, that's the metaphor over here. That sometimes we think, I can only be successful in certain circumstances, right? I can only be successful in certain places, in certain situations. So the idea is that the Adam Arishon is made from the dirt of everywhere. So wherever Adam finds himself geographically, he has the ability to find success. This is the Vart, by the way, Rabbi Yitzchak Berditchev, Zechusa Yagin Aleinu writes in the beginning of Chumash Devarim, the Torah says that they wrote the Torah Be'er Hetev in 70 languages. 7 languages. When they entered into Israel, they put it on the stones, 70 languages. I asked Rabbi Yitzchak, why do you have to write Torah in 70 languages? Right? The Jews in the Midbar, they only spoke 2 languages. What do they speak? Right? Hebrew and Yiddish. Jews always spoke Yiddish, of course. Right? In other words, even in the Midbar, right? So it's right. So why do you need 70 languages? Why do you need 70 languages? And Rabbi Yitzchak says because Moshe Rabbeinu knew that there was going to be galus. And he was afraid that the Yidden would think, the Jews would think, where could a Jew connect with Torah? Only in Eretz Yisrael. Where could a Jew connect with God? Only in Eretz Yisrael. Now, obviously, Eretz Yisrael presents a unique connection that cannot be replicated anywhere else. But the strength of our people is the ability to be steeped in Torah and relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu wherever we are. So whatever land you're in, whatever language you are speaking, a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always possible. And again, even before Rabbi Yitzchak, that's the Gemara. Adam Rishon is made up from dust, collected from all over the world. Why Adam? You are from everywhere. If you're from everywhere, then you could be successful anywhere. If you're from everywhere, you could be successful anywhere. The Gemara goes like, Amar Boshia, Mished Rav, Adam Rishon, Bosei Amar Beis, Adam Rishon, Gufa mi Bavel, Rosham Eretz Yisrael. This is beautiful. Adam Rishon, his body is from Bavel, his head is from Eretz Yisrael, ve'evarav mishar aratzos, and ultimately again, and his limbs are from other lands. Agvosav, his backside, Amrav Acha me'akra da'agma. So a place called Akra da'agma. Now, I'll just tell you something amazing. So something which tells you about what Chazal thought about Akra da'agma. Right? Obviously, not high on the destination list. And I'll say, but something absolutely amazing. Listen to this. Listen to this idea. Body is from Bavel, head is from Eretz Yisrael. So what does that tell you? It tells you is, you know what? There is a lot of Gashmius in Chutz La'aretz. And it's nice, right? The body, which represents Gashmius. Gashmius comes from Chutz La'aretz. But where's the head? Right? Here's the head of us. I remember again, the head is not just intellect. Head, the neshama is also in the head. Where's Ruchnius from? Real Ruchnius? That's Eretz Yisrael. Again, can we have Ruchnius here? Absolutely. Of course we can. That's the Gemara that we just saw. But if you want to know ultimately, again, so the body is from Bavel, but the head, and I will say the beauty of it is, so that means for us also, in other words, that means we're descendants of Adam Rishon, which means even though we're here in Chutz La'aretz, right, there's a piece of our head that is like a shtick Eretz Yisrael. Because that's part of our DNA. Our head was fashioned from dirt of Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, by definition, embedded inside of each of us is made up of a piece of Eretz Yisrael. Our heads is a piece of Eretz Yisrael. It's so beautiful. We'll say this is a wild Gemara. Wild Gemara. Hayom. We'll say there are 12 hours in the day. So right now is going to give us a digest of the first day of Adam Rishon in this world. How did Adam spend his day? Here we go. Shar Rishona Chutzpar Afro. Hour number 1, the dirt was collected to form him. Shnia Nasa Golem. A second hour of the day, he was made into a golem, a mass, a lifeless mass. Shlishis Nimtuchlei Varav. Third hour, again, his limbs were formed. Revius Nizrukab Neshama. Fourth hour of the day, and the Neshama was blown into his body. Chamishis Amadar Aglov. Fifth hour of the day, Adam Rishon stood up. Shishis Kara Shemos. Sixth hour, he started calling names to all the animals, all the different things. Shvius Nizdav Golo Chava. Seventh hour of the day, he was introduced to Chava. Right? Shminis, introduced, they married, right? Nizdav paired with Chava. Shminis Alulamita. In the 8th hour, they had relations. Alulamita Shnayim V'yardu Arba. They went into the bed as 2, and they came out as 4. So as I said, obviously you understand, these hours are not regular hours, right? Because time is a human construct, and Sheish Mebreish, the 6 days of creation, did not work with the human construct of time, right? They worked in a different construct of time. So the point over here is hour number 8, so they had relations with Chava. Literally, again, they went into the bed as 2, they came out as 4, which means they procreated, Kain and Hevel. In the 9th hour, they were commanded not to eat from the tree. Asiris Sarach, the 10th hour, they ate from the tree. I will say, how crazy is that? The 9th hour, they were commanded, don't eat from the tree. Okay, it lasted an hour. The 10th hour, they ate from the tree. The Gemara says, Sarach, Achat Esrei Nidon, 11th hour they were judged, Shtem Esrei Nitrad V'halachlo. In the 12th hour of the day, they were exiled. They were exiled. So we'll say, Shene'emar Adam Bikar Bayolin. The man, right? Adam Bikar Bayolin. Man doesn't stay over, right? Doesn't stay over. He doesn't stay overnight. Adam Rishon never stayed overnight in Gan Eden. He was born there. He spent 12 hours there, but never stayed over. So it's also interesting, by the way, and you wouldn't necessarily get this from the Chumash, just because the Chumash is written. Cain and Hevel were born in Gan Eden. Right? And Cain and Hevel lived in Gan Eden, at least for quote-unquote a couple of hours. They were then exiled together with their parents. You wouldn't necessarily get this from the story, because the way the story in the Chumash is structured is, it's just Adam and Chava, right? There's no mention of Cain and Hevel until after they are exiled from Gan Eden. But I will say all of this is in one day. All is one day. I'll just point out over here something amazing. What do you take from a Gemara like this? So we'll say, so first of all, there's a lot of like Musar Haskals in these Gemaras, but part of it is how sometimes a person could have everything in front of them and yet throw it all away. For what appears to be really nothing. Nothing. Now, it's always easy to sit back in judgment of other people. Adam and Chava, how could you have done this? But the truth is, we do this all the time as well. But this is also, which to me is the most incredible piece of this Gemara. But I'll say, if you notice, by the way, what do you see about the first day of Adam Rishon? What do you see about the first day of Adam Rishon's life? What do you see about it? It's highly scheduled. I'll say the secret to successful time management, and time management is the secret to life success, is scheduling. So, right, the Piaget spoke about this in B'nai Machshava Tova. Right, the idea is whatever you want to do in life, whatever you want to do with your day, schedule it. You want to hang out with your friends? How much time? You have a dinner with your family? How much time? You're relaxed going for a walk? How much time? You're learning Torah? How much time? Everything needs to be scheduled. Because if it's scheduled, number one, you'll maximize your time, and number two, if it's scheduled, it'll act out. And we'll say we know this. When there's not a schedule, time just evaporates. So I think that's part of the Musar Haskell over here. What is Chosh Baruch Hu shows about the first day of Adam Rishon? Every single hour could be accounted for. You ever have a day where you try to look back a little bit, like how you spent your day, and you have time that you can't account for? Like, I'm not sure. I know I was in my office. I'm not sure exactly what happened during that time. It's frustrating. And chances are, if you can't account for the time, chances are it was not used productively and successfully. Says the Piaget, but even before the Piaget, says the Ribono Shel Olam, the key to successful time management is scheduling. And again, time management allows for productive days, really productive days and productive living. Incredible. All right, well, says Kavaiter. Says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Bar Chama, Ein Chaya Ra Shel Etes Ba'adam, Ela Im Kei Nidma Lo Ki Behema. A wild animal cannot go ahead and adversely impact a person unless, of course, a person himself becomes like an animal. Shene'emar Nimshal Kabehemos Nidmu. Incredible. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rab B'Shah Shebi Keish Chosh Baruch Hu Lebaro says Ha'adam. Liberal Ha'adam says when Hashem wanted to create man, Bara kat achos shel malachi asharis. He created first a group of angels. And so we're going to see one of the things that Chosh Baruch Hu does is he tries to work collaboratively. Even though he does not need to work collaboratively, he tries to. So he created a group of malachim. And he says to them, he says, Amar lahem, Ritzonchem na'asa adam etzamenu. So he says to malachim, Chavra, should we make man? So the malachim say, okay, tell us what is man going to do? What is this? Tell us a little bit about man. What are his actions? So says, okay, he does this, he does that. Chosh Baruch Hu foreshadows. He says, man's going to do a lot of good stuff, but he's also going to do a lot of bad stuff. That's just the nature of man. So Amar Lefanav Bar Shalom, right? So it says, Amar Lefanav Bar Shalom, Ma enosh ki tizkerenu, o ben adam ki sifkedenu. So they said, don't do it. Chosh Baruch Hu, it's not worth it. Hoshit etzba'o kitana b'neim. So what did Chosh Baruch Hu do? He goes ahead and he extended his little finger, v'sarfam, and he incinerated this group of angels. Right? He didn't like what they had to say. He destroyed them. Same thing happened with the second group of angels. What happened? Kachlishis. Then he approaches the third group of angels. Amru lefan of ribono shalom ribono shalom misham shamru lefanecha mahoyo. Right. So what happens? So it comes to the third group of angels. He asks the third group of angels, Chevra, what do you guys think about creating man? Third group says, God. God, Ribbon Shalom, Eibishter, right, Tata, right, come on. You ask the first two groups their opinion also. Sometimes it happens that you engage in collaborative work, but you're not actually interested in anyone else's opinion, right? Instead, you know what you want to do, but you have to go through the optics of asking other people their opinion. So what happens? The Gemara says, the third group says, Kadosh Baruch Hu, you asked the previous two groups of their opinion. You didn't like it. You incinerated them. So come on. So listen to what they say. They say, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kala Olam Kulo Shalchahu. Kol Masha Ata Rotza Lasos Balamecha Asay. So you know what? The third group says, Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rabban Shalom, you're the boss. You're the boss. We have a better idea. Do what you want. And we support you. Right? Now that's collaboration, right? Do what you want, and we'll support you. So it's not what happens. So the Malachim went ahead. I will say, again, there's a lot to say on this Gemara also, like what is happening over here, but okay, we'll go back a little bit. So what happened? Nabo says, so this Malachim, fine, so Chashbro creates man. Kevan Shegi, La'anshe Dera Mabal, Va'anshe Dera Flaga, Shemasem Kulkalin, Amru Lefanav Ribon Shalom Lo Yafa Amar Yisharon Lefanecha. So what happened? Now when man ultimately engages in his downward spiral, right? And man goes ahead and ends up sinning. The Dor HaMabel, Dor HaFlag, generation of the flood, generation of Migdal Bavel. So the Malachim come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and they say to him, listen, God, I don't want to say we told you so, right? Because we didn't say anything. Third group said nothing. But perhaps the earlier two groups had a good point. And the both said such a beautiful Gemara. Amar Lahan, Va'ad zikna anihu, va'ad sevani esbal. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, listen to this, until they grow old, I am still Hashem, and until they become seva, I will tolerate them. And I will say, this is the most beautiful answer in the world. Kadosh Baruch Hu said, you're not right. You're still not right. The Bible says, listen to how beautiful this is. Because even though my children are messed up so terribly, I believe in them. I am patient. And I will wait until they get their act together. I will say, is this not the most beautiful and overwhelming Gemara? There are times in life where we act in a certain way, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking down, and He's so profoundly disappointed in us, so profoundly disappointed. And the Malachim are saying, I told you so, why did you create them? They're not worth it. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu just says, Chevra, just wait. Just wait. I promise you, they're going to turn it around. They're going to pull it off. They're going to affect change. This is the faith that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in us. A willingness to wait until we get our stuff together. A willingness to wait no matter how long it takes in order for us to become the best version of ourselves. That's how much Hashem loves us. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Adam Rishon Misofa Olam Ad Sofa Hala. Adam Rishon, literally again, I will say, was so big. Was so tall, was so large, that he existed from one end of the world to the other end of the world. Shnei Amar, Lemin Hayom Asher Bara Elokim Adam Al Haaretz U'Miktzei Hashamayim V'Katzei Hashamayim. Kevan Shesarach, once he made his mistake, once he sinned, Hiniach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yodo Alav U'Miyato. Hashem placed his hand on top of Adam Rishon and literally again diminished his stature. Shnei Amar, Achar v'kedem tzartani v'atashas alai kapecha. Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Adam Rishon mina aretz ala rakia haya. Adam Rishon existed again from the earth all the way until the heavens. Shene'emar lemin hayom asher bara Elokim Adam al haaretz u'lemiktzei hashamayim al ktzei hashamayim keva shesarach. Once Adam Rishon made a mistake, right? Once he sinned, Hiniach HaKadosh Baruch Hu yado alav u'miyato. Hashem placed His hand on him and diminished him. Shene'emar Achar v'kedem sartani. I kasher krada. The psukim contradict each other. So the Gemara says, "Idi v'idi chada mida." No, it's the same mida. It's the same measurement. It's just ultimately again illustrating it in different ways. I'll just point out something absolutely beautiful. What is this idea that Adam Rishon again was literally again from one end of the world to the other end of the world? What is it representing? Potential. When Adam Rishon was created in this world, what was his potential? His potential was limitless. Literally, again, he existed from the heaven to the earth, from one end of the world to the other end of the world. His potential literally was limitless. But then he sinned, and what happened when he sinned? He was diminished. And I will say, what does sin do? Sin diminishes potential. Now, it's not forever, because I could always regain that potential, but that's it. Adam Rishon was beginning from heaven to earth, and then afterwards, after he committed the sin, his stature was diminished. Let's go back to a little bit. Adam Rishon spoke Aramaic, Shneimar uv'li ma yikru re'echa. El. V'hainu damar Yesh Lakish. My dichsiv zeh sefer told us Adam Melamed. Sharach Hakadosh Baruch Hu dar vadar. Hakadosh Baruch Hu showed Adam Rishon all the future generations. He showed him all generations to come. The Gemara says dar vadar v'dar shav dar vadar v'chachamav. Keven shegia l'dar Rabbi Akiva samach b'taraso v'nisasei v'mitzaso. Once Adam Rishon saw the generation of Rabbi Akiva, and he saw the Torah of Rabbi Akiva, he rejoiced. When he saw the pain, the death and suffering of Rabbi Akiva, he was saddened. Amar v'li ma'yikre echael. V'amar Yehuda Amar. So we'll say it's fascinating that again, out of all the generations, all the suffering, what impacted Adam Rishon most was Rabbi Akiva. Right? Out of all the suffering that he saw was Rabbi Akiva. Okay, not enough time to get into that now. Adam Rishon min haya. All right, so now the Gemara takes a very sharp turn over here, which is actually quite fast. Adam Rishon was a heretic. Now again, more explanation for this, right? Min haya shene'emar vayikra Hashem Elokim ala Adam vayomer lo ayeka. Hashem says to Adam, ayeka, where are you? So the Gemara says, an nata libecha, where did your heart go? Where did your heart turn? So we'll say we're going to stop over here for today, but again I'm leaving on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So we'll say understand these Gemaras now are going to focus on a little bit different. They're essentially calling into doubt Adam Rishon's commitment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, how to understand those Gemaras and what it really means? So tomorrow we're going to learn Daf Yomi together here in our Beis Medrash. First Shabbos of the Daf. We're going to do it together, Meretz Hashem. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be incredible. Another ridiculous Agarata Gemara tomorrow. It's going to be great. We'll say Mazel Tov on completing our first week here in our new Beis Medrash, and Halavai we should be zoch for many years to come. Daf Yomi is going to be here. It's going to be here, not in the main show. It's going to be here, Meretz Hashem. All right, run Zoom. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. A good Shabbos, everyone. In Eretz Yisrael, in Florida, in Baltimore, anywhere I guess is warmer than here. So, all right, and enjoy it. All right, good Shabbos. Shabbos, good to see you.